All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. So glad you're here. In just a few minutes, you're going to be super pumped that you're here as well, because this week we have an absolute rock star with us. We got a guy with us that I have been just following and tracking and admiring for, wow, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know how many years now. A long time, man. He's a guy that I look up to because he is as authentic as they come. He's a guy that will just tell you his truth. He will tell you that he absolutely loves and adores kids. He's a guy that will break out and rap in a moment's notice. He will wear the coolest, funkiest shoes ever. And he loves life. And it takes a lot for me to say that I admire a guy who's living in Ohio, but I do. I am so glad that this week we get Dr. Dru Tomlin to join us. Dru, thanks for being here.
Hey. Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for the opportunity and happy to share and whatever's worth sharing.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for being here. And, there might be one or two people that are listening and or watching this right now that have no idea who Dru Tomlin is, it's mind-boggling to me that might be the case. But just in case, just introducing yourself and telling the world who you are.
Yeah. So currently I'm the principal of Heritage Middle School in Westerville City Schools. Here in tropical Westerville, Ohio, right here. And so, that's what I currently do. That's the short story. What else do you want to know?
Let's go back, man. Let's go back because sure. I started tracking you back before you were the principal. You've done a lot, and if anybody's really curious, they can go look you up. You got a nice little page on the internet that'll give you the short story, and I'll tell them where they can find that in a minute. But you're not from Ohio, which is why we're actually talking right now. Because if you were, I don't know, man. This boy might not be as welcoming. So, what is your story? What brought you to Westerville, Ohio?
Oh my gosh. Well, the super long story. Oh my gosh. My father was in the Marine Corps for 29 years. So really I was born in Camp Pendleton, California. So, West Coast.
Yeah. I'm a Navy brat, so I understand all about it.
Yeah. So you get it, right? So I think part of my story is that whole lifestyle. A lot of people question like, oh, that must have been really hard to move around every 2 or 3 years. And, parts of it are, because in terms of developing long-term relationships and that kind of stuff can be kind of challenging, like when you're a kid like that, moving around. But I could say like, it really has helped in terms of adjusting and being flexible to new situations, which is basically like the start of every single school year. You're meeting like whole new kids and working with staff and all that kind of stuff. And then I think the other thing that helped in my formative years was like school was the constant. You know what I mean? Like even if geography changed or the time zone changed, like I always knew what school was supposed to be kind of like, you know what I mean? And there were some tough times for sure growing up, especially in the, young adolescent years. I think that's probably why I gravitate towards it. It's because, I was the most socially awkward. I'm still socially awkward now.
I was gonna say past tense. What?
But instead of like deflecting that like version of myself, like listen, it's just who you are. Like, I was socially awkward in those days, remain socially awkward today. And that's why I think like in the middle grades, that's just what it's all about. So, all that stuff. And then, I fell in love with, actually I started teaching, in Harrisonburg, Virginia, 9th and 10th grade basic English. And, kids who had never read or written or spoken English, some of them, and I really embraced like just the diversity of my class and learning about, certain students and their experience with text, and how important literacy is. I was also a paraprofessional aide to a student with like a severe neurological impairment at the same time. So I think I had to learn sign language. So language just became like all what I was about, and then when I moved to Georgia in '98, I fell in love with middle school because I had never done it. I was like, I was certified 7 through 12, but my experience had been high school. And so I was like, man, I guess I'll try this middle school thing. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it's all about. Like these kids are off the cracker just like me, and it's totally all right. You know, and then, you know, went to administration, and here you go. And then, I don't know, and then like the AMLE part of it was interesting. I was an administrator at an elementary school in Georgia, and someone, you know, I'd reached out and I saw this position at AMLE, and I thought, gosh, I want to get back in middle school. So let me just see what it's about. And it was director of middle level services, which just from that title, I didn't know really what that. I didn't really
Right.
know
You had
what
no
that
idea what
meant,
you're
you know?
stepping into.
No, exactly right. Right. And listen, I still have trouble explaining to my mom what I did during those years. Like, what does that actually mean? But yeah, I mean, just working for that organization, the reputation of AMLE, you know, was so good, and strong. And I was like, if I can be with this organization, then shoot, why not give it a shot? And so it gave me the opportunity to work with schools like all around the country, all around the world, who are just trying to improve the lives of young adolescents and those that serve them. So it was really, really great. And I continue to work with AMLE today, at their conferences and at the Leadership Institute that we do in the summertime. But boy, I mean, I was itching to get back into a classroom, Dave. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, it's like once that's in your blood, and that energy and that life and that connection with students, that daily connection with students, it was just something I really missed. So that's kind of where I am now. And of course, as you see me looking up from my camera, I've got my own 2 young adolescents in my own house. I got a 7th grade boy and a 10th grader too. So we are living the young adolescent like
Right.
reality at all times. You
And,
know, so it's all
as you
good.
put your hand on your head, because it's one thing to run a school with several hundred middle school kids running around. It's a whole different world having 1 or 2 of them in your house, man.
Yeah, you know, it really gives you, at least it gives me, I love having that double perspective, you know what I mean? Like, because it's one thing to examine your own, you know, programs and practices, and people on the school front, but when you come home and your kids are living that stuff and bringing it home, it really makes you kind of just be a little bit more reflective, and because
Right.
you are seeing it from that side. So anyways, it is what it is. It's cool.
No, I hear you. So,
Yeah.
you, California, Virginia, Georgia, you,
DC,
DC, then
Jakarta, Indonesia. Let me throw some out.
you're right, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And some people would look at that and say, I have no idea how you do it. And you talked about your upbringing being
Yeah.
this military brat, where that was kind of your lifestyle. So like for me, I went to 16 different schools growing up and always lived
Right.
everywhere.
Yep.
And I don't understand how a person can stay in one town their whole life, live in the
Yeah.
same, that doesn't resonate for me.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself getting that itch every couple of years to just go try something new? Or are you longing for that place that you can now just have as the capstone of the career?
Yeah. No, you know, it's interesting. I mean, I never say never to something, you know, like I don't want to say, well, I mean, I love being here. I love this town.
Yeah.
I love what I do. So, I can't imagine myself doing something else. But as soon as I say that, then my imagination kicks in. And it's like,
Sorry,
well,
didn't
that
mean to
could
plant
have you
that seed,
kind
man.
of, I don't know, man. And it's really interesting because I think that there's value in both, people who choose to remain in one place and those that have the itchy feet to venture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and not to make it about like literacy or literary figures, but like I always looked at like the difference between Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson. And they both wrote poetry around the same time. And I know I'm going to completely screw this up because there's probably some poetry expert
But you
out
know
there
what? I
that's
have
like,
no idea. So go right ahead. Make it all up.
but what's cool is, and from what I know of their biographies, is that like Walt Whitman was like the wild man. Like he wrote poetry and went out and explored and just did all this stuff and wrote amazing poetry. And Emily Dickinson, on the other side of that same coin, stayed more. I think she like stayed in the same house and stayed in the same town, and her poems were just as revolutionary, even though a little more quiet.
Yeah.
So I think like, gosh, you can be a revolutionary thinker, even if your roots stay planted or if they go. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Do you consider yourself a revolutionary thinker? Let me
don't
say
know.
this. I'll say I do. Revolutionary in the most positive way possible. I mean, I feel like you're out there, you're always looking for that next thing. You're not complacent.
No. Well, I mean, thank you for saying that. I mean, I think it depends on the day, and I think it depends in some ways of who you talk to, who know me. But I could say that I think, well, this is gonna sound like I'm like tooting my own horn, but
And that's why you're here, man.
I think I was always raised to question, and I think like my parents and my mom in particular, just all and my two older sisters always kind of asked me to like, well, why? Yeah,
Mm.
but why? Like we'd sit at the dinner table, and it was like not only they bust my chops and pick on me because I was the youngest kid in the family, but like they were always pushing me to reconsider and think things through a little bit more. So I think that's where it kind of came from. And then listening to certain music growing up, like it really pushed me to think differently. So I listened to punk real young, like real early, and I
Hmm.
listened to hip hop back in when it was the 90s, the golden age
Right.
of hip hop. So um, I think both. So all of that kind of always pushing myself to get out of my comfort zone. Like I will intentionally listen to music that kind of grates on my nerve a little bit because I enjoy that disharmony
Oh,
a little bit because I think it's important. I think if we
yeah.
always exist in like a harmonious little comfortable bubble, I think we don't grow the way we need to. If that
Hence,
makes sense, I don't
yeah,
know.
it does. Hence the world of living in a middle school so
Yeah,
much.
exactly right.
You
Right.
get that discomfort and that noise. But let me look at that through the lens of being an administrator,
Yeah.
where some would argue that part of your job is to maintain stability and
Yeah.
to keep things within a nice little neat box. But yet there are others that say, no, you always need to be breaking down those walls and looking on the outside. How do you manage other staff members who are those questioners that always want to know the whys and
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
be willing or tempted to always stray outside of the lines? I mean, how do you manage that?
Man, I'll tell you, Dave, that is a great question, and that question in itself is revolutionary. Because I do think administratively we're tasked with preserving certain structures and norms and routines, um, but I also think it's important that we question those very fence lines. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So, in terms of managing or working with staff that also have that questioning tendency, is that kind of what
Yeah,
I'm getting
yeah.
at? Yeah,
It's hard. I mean,
it
I can
can
only
be.
imagine that you want to push that, but you also have to kind of pull back at
Yeah.
times, right?
Yep. Yeah, case in point, like, I mean, I know I really embrace it. I love it when people ask really good questions, and don't see it as like that the position of an administrator is like a unapproachable person. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Um, for instance, this past week, um, I shared a story with a staff member about something that was really positive going on, that was going to benefit a student. And I asked the staff member, I said, yeah, so tell me, what do you think about that? She's like, I think that's really unfair. And I think that's really wrong. And I was like, oh, and at first, I mean, I took it in all honesty, all transparency, like I was really taken aback, and I took it almost a little bit personally because I was like, wait a second, you just took this thing that I thought was this golden moment and just ripped it. Um, and so I had to manage my own emotions, which at that moment I didn't do that well. But then upon reflection, I was like, you know what? She really brought up a good point. And what was stopping me from just really embracing that good point, or at least shaking hands with it? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Was it my own hubris, my own pride, my own whatever it was? So um, I don't know. I think it's just knowing that like the smartest person in the room is the room.
Right.
I
And
think.
how do you go about encouraging the room to speak up? Because you're a guy that you bring in lots of new ideas, whether it's scheduling or just ways to connect with kids or whatever the case may be. How do you encourage those ideas to both infiltrate from outside of your walls in
Mhm.
and to bubble up from within?
Yeah. Well, I do have to say I'm very fortunate to work in a school where the staff uh, has no qualms with speaking their minds. I mean, our
It's awesome
superintendent.
though that you see that as a blessing. It
Oh
really
my
is.
gosh, yeah. I mean, the superintendent will come into a faculty meeting to deliver some news about X, Y, and Z, and my staff is right there asking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions of the guy, and not in necessarily the most like, I have to pull them aside sometimes and say like, hey, a little spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Just, watch that. So again, I'm fortunate to work in a school where folks speak their mind because they value what we do in that school, and they know that the kids that we serve need critical practitioners in the craft.
Yeah.
That's what we need, and that's what I continue. So I think part of it is saying that, you know what, like I was a teacher for 10 plus years. I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is. And the fact that you are asking such good questions of the work that I'm doing as a principal, goodness, I love it. It shows me that you're invested not just in, showing up to work, but stepping up to improve the whole school. So just articulating that, like, man, I love you guys to death. Like, I have no shame saying I love telling them that. So that's one thing. It's just being straight out honest with them and say, thank you for being honest. I want you to be honest. Poke holes in the plans. Like, things only improve if we ask the hard questions. And then the other is like more of just like logistical stuff, like during a staff meeting or whatever, like using protocols to get people to respond when they normally wouldn't, like using a snowball technique where they write down an answer and crumple it up into a ball and throw it across the room, which seems like a hokey little thing, but when that takes, instead of one person answering the question, you got 60 people in the room answering the question, and then you type that up and it's like, oh, my voice was recognized. Now what can I do?
And you have that luxury in middle schools, because in middle schools, if it's good for the 12-year-olds, it's good for the 42-year-olds, and vice versa, because a good middle school teacher is always a middle schooler at heart,
Exactly right. Yeah. And I think just always seeing ourselves as learners, I think we sometimes get ourselves into like a trap when we have that binary of teacher and student, and we see them as diametrically opposed, when really, if we would just see ourselves like we're constantly learning. That's what it's all about. Embrace your messed up self.
There you go. One of the other things that I think is important for administrators is when they're, you inherited an amazing team. It sounds like you walked into this school that was already rock and rolling, but I'm assuming you've had the opportunity to hire a few staff members as well. Yes. What is it that you're looking for when you're hiring somebody new?
Well, this is going to seem like a very non-research based term. I want people who are thirsty.
Ooh, thirsty.
People who are thirsty.
Do tell.
Meaning like people who are ready and want to be there. There have been, I've interviewed lots of people who are polished, professional, prepared, and they know it, and they know they could get a job somewhere else. They don't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But man, the people that really make a difference are the folks that are not only prepared, like on the resume, and know their stuff content wise, but there is a palpable energy and thirst to be where to be where they want to be at that school or in that position or whatever. And it's an intangible quality, that thirst. So that's what I'm looking for.
Do you have like specific questions you asked to get that, or is it really just trying to get a read for who they are as a person more than who they are as a professional?
When I ask questions about, if it depends on the position. If I'm interviewing somebody for an administrative position, for instance, which I had the wonderful opportunity to do this past summer, and I asked about, how do you work with students who may present behavioral challenges, who refuse to follow a certain rule or policy? And I'm looking for people who don't just go straight to the book, who don't go straight to the policies, but instead say, well, how do I know that kid? How do I build a relationship with that kid? Like, their answers are kid-centric.
Yeah.
They understand that there are logistical things and pragmatics and rules and policies. Everyone knows that. Anyone can read a handbook and know that stuff. But it's about how do you form a relationship with a kid, not turn a kid into a form.
That's good.
That's what I'm looking for.
Say that line again. That was good. Do you know what you just said?
Yeah, well, I think so. How do you form a relationship with a kid, not turn a kid into a form,
Oh, that's so good. I like that.
you know, because anybody can do paperwork, you know.
Yeah.
So, but and for a teacher, like once we start talking about like instruction, oh, like I can just see like it's their body language. If they kind of sit up in their seat and I can see it in their eyes, man, they're jazzed about what they get to teach every day and who they get to teach every day. That's just I just get excited just to interview people like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Think back to, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago when you were in the classroom doing your thing.
Yeah.
And now think about yourself as a principal. Would you have been a good teacher in your building today?
Oh man. Again, I don't want to seem like braggadocio or anything like that, but I mean, I think I would have been good. I think I would have been okay. I definitely had things I needed to work on, Dave. I'm not gonna lie. Classroom management, I was okay with it. But it was about building relationships with
Yeah.
kids more so than like lockstep compliance. I took care of business in my own house, um, and I loved what I was teaching.
Where have you grown over the last 2 decades?
Oh, last 2 decades, gosh, grown and keep on growing. I'd say um, probably and this is going to sound antithetical to this moment because I'm talking so much, but listening,
Hmm.
and that it's not about me. It's not
That's,
about me. Like I put on a show a little bit, like, the red shoes and, I wear, like I live the brand of my school, like
yeah.
everything's the brand. Um, but I know ultimately like it's not about me. So I got to make sure that I don't make it seem like it's about me. And that's listening.
Well, I think that you do an amazing job of that. You talk about
Oh, thanks.
branding. It's when you do things, it's at times it seems like it's a character, the Dru Tomlin character. Like even if it's the principal drinking coffee in cars, which I want to talk about that in just a second.
Yeah.
It's all about bringing attention to ideas and purpose and
Right.
things that are best for kids, which I think is super powerful. It's not seen as the Dru Tomlin show. And hey,
I'm
everybody,
glad.
look at me. It's all about Dru. It's here are some ideas and some things I'm thinking about, and you ask us the questions and you bring us into this world, which
Cool.
just makes all of us better. So
Cool.
yeah, man, I commend you for how you
No,
do that
I
and how you carry
appreciate I
yourself.
appreciate
It's
you
awesome.
saying that. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, because I never want it to be about me. Uh, First of all, I always think about like my two older sisters and what they would say if I was trying to do something like that. They're
I
like,
feel a noogie.
exactly right, exactly right. Yeah. So, no, but I appreciate you saying that. It is about the ideas that are important. It's about the kids that we serve, and it's about the teachers and staff that are doing the hard work. So yeah, the principals and cars drinking coffee stuff, man. I don't know. That was
Let's talk about that a little bit.
sure.
For people that don't know what we're talking about, you've started doing this, this thing. It's amazing, is what it is. It goes out on social media, primarily and Facebook. It's you in your car. Now I've seen a couple where they're hands free. You've got the little thing contraption in your car, which is cool. So you're
Yeah,
just driving. It's like it's a take on like
it is.
Jay Leno or Jerry Seinfeld, however you want to
Yeah,
do
it
it.
is.
Just
It is.
driving and talking and sipping some coffee, talking about school.
Yeah,
Where
that's
did this
it.
come from?
Man, I'll tell you what. I don't know. I was walking my dog in the morning, and I just started to think about some stuff, and I was like, all right, who do I have to tell this to? Like, my wife's a kindergarten teacher, so like, she didn't want to talk about
Right.
ideas. She's whatever, Dru. So I couldn't. I was like, well, what if I just did like something in my car, like like the Seinfeld stuff? And so risking all kind of copyright and like laws and stuff like that, I was like, all right, let me just talk about whatever it was. And I literally just set up my phone,
Right.
and it's I have this 2001 Toyota Camry that's all kind of jacked up, but you know what, it has this one spot where the camera will fit, and that's what it is. I don't know, man. It's just yeah, so I just record it, and sometimes I do more than one take because I'm not really happy with it, or There are a couple times where the phone will fall in the middle of what I'm doing, and it's like, oh well, but it's
But
fun.
I think it's awesome how you even just frame that, because that's totally how I feel. You talk about the fact that you just didn't know who to talk to about it. So you're just talking. It's not like you're up
Yeah.
there, you're not that preaching. You're not saying, hey guys, here's what
No,
you need to do. It's like
no.
you're just talking, man. It's
Well,
so real.
and you know what? If it ever spills out to the other way, I hope that someone like smacks me in the mouth, because yeah, it's just random thoughts, and I definitely don't want it to make it seem like the Drew show or anything weird like that. Because it's about, yeah, it's just about ideas, and also trying to be safe driving too. That's some interesting feedback that I got from my mom. She was like, now are you just gonna park your car from now on and just make it look like you're driving? And I was like, well, I guess I could. So
Yeah, I'll get some
um
green screen technology behind me, Mom, just so you feel
exactly.
better.
So but yeah, no, they've been fun. They've been fun, and it's actually it's a challenge. Because I thought about, well, should I write like a blog? Should I do something like that to get my thoughts out? And I was thinking, Drew, you don't want to set yourself up for failure and start something that you can't continue. And so, like, that's where it just became the thing in the car.
And you can continue driving and drinking coffee. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not going to broadcast. I'm not going to let too many of the local, police officers know that this is what I'm doing.
You're taking a
So,
different route to work every day now, aren't you?
exactly.
They won't be out
um,
live. They're all gonna be tape delayed. That's good.
that's right. That's right. That's
So
right.
what are some of the thoughts for those people that haven't checked this out yet? And there's gonna be
Yeah.
a lot of people now going to check out your page. But what are
Oh,
some of the
cool.
things you've just talked through?
I mean, I talked about. I think like the first one. It all depends on what's going on at the time of the year. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
at the very beginning of the year, I talked about being careful not to bring two burritos to a one burrito party. Because at the beginning of the year, like everyone's all super excited, and like
Yep.
you just, you have all these ideas and you just want to throw them at people. And so there's some of that that's like time um, sensitive or time relevant. Like for instance, one that I just recorded that's coming up soon is just about the power of quiet.
Mm.
Like I was again walking my dog, and I was gonna have music on as I was walking, but I was like, you know what? I just need some quiet.
Hmm.
And I had forgotten how important that is, especially in the noisy world that we live in. And I think about that with the kids that we serve too. We
Hmm.
ask our teachers and our staff and our students to like collaborate
Hmm.
and, work together, cooperate, collaborate, all that kind of stuff, talk to each other, dialogue, which is important. Um, but it just got to, I mean, when I was a kid, um, especially in junior high school, and being socially awkward, I would get overwhelmed by social situations. And I would just have to go somewhere and
Mm.
just be by myself. And invariably, some well intentioned adult would come up to me and go, "Are you okay? Are
Hmm.
you all right?" And it always made me feel like being by myself and being quiet was wrong.
Mm.
When really that's not really how it is. I mean, being quiet and needing some self-reflective space is important. So, and how we do that for teachers and for ourselves and for our students. So I don't know. That's kind of the stuff I talk about. Some of it's better than others. I don't know.
No,
It's
it's
not
good.
always.
It's almost like you're using this as a diary and a
Mm,
journal and just an opportunity to get all of us thinking. I love it. It's so
cool.
good, man. It
Well, I'm
really
glad
is.
you like it.
And I love your humor in it as well. It's just like it's so authentic. It's so real. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So
Thanks, Dave. I
for those of
appreciate it.
you that are listening to this podcast while you're driving to work, on the way home today, just I would say watch it, but I don't want you doing that. Listen, listen, spend some time during your planning time today. Find one of these episodes on Drew's Facebook page or something, and just listen on your way home today. You'll be thanking me later. I guarantee it.
Man, you're too kind, Dave.
But I mean, if you want to wait and just do that all that in the week and just keep listening to these podcasts all week long, that's cool too. Whatever. Just somehow check it out. It's good stuff, man. It really is good.
Well, thank
So,
you, man. Appreciate it.
you are an absolute gift to middle school into
Oh
education.
my
Drew, you really are.
gosh.
You've got like just the wisdom that you're spouting out today is pretty incredible. You're a guy who who has access to a lot of amazing ideas. You know, you go to all these conferences, you speak to a lot of different people, you got a lot of connections, and your head has to just be constantly filled with people and ideas and products that are supposedly the next best thing, but yet you still stay grounded and are able to focus on the stuff that's important. It's all about those relationships, the connections, even the idea of talking about two burritos to one burrito party, and knowing that sometimes you just got to slow it down or find that quiet space. That's important because there are some people out there that just always want to push and always want to push and always want to push. And you're always looking for that next best thing and always listening to those voices, but you've got enough wisdom to say, "Hey, let's slow our roll from time to time. Let's just embrace who we are. Let's focus on our kids." And you protect that. And that's admirable that you find that balance. And it's good stuff.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, man. Yeah, I think, and I don't know if I don't think. I mean, you've given a lot of praise to my mind, which I don't think is really. it's really.
But again, we've only been talking for a half hour, so I mean,
really,
maybe if we went another hour, there'd be a lot, a lot more I could rip apart. But
this guy's pretty shallow. No, I don't know, because there are a lot of days when I feel like a goldfish, you know, and it's like every day is like a new surprise in the plastic castle. Like, you know, I'm just, but I think I don't know.
But I think that's a blessing too. That sometimes that short-term memory just allows you to keep going anew. You don't get to hold on to those grudges, hold on to those mistakes and those failures, and just keep plowing ahead.
Right, and I think part of that, I don't know. I think it's just embracing the fact that we're all. This is going to sound really bad. We're all really kind of dumb.
Yeah,
you know,
so true.
mean? Like we really are. Like when you think about, I mean, life's the comedy of errors, you know, and I hate to go back to like a Shakespeare thing, but like King Lear, I mean, I love that play to death, man, because like it was the king that was losing his mind, and it was the fool that was the one that had it all figured out. And it just always reminds me that like you don't have to be so serious, and you don't have to continually. I don't know. I think there can be you can find a lot of wisdom in the ridiculousness of life, and it's totally cool to embrace that. Like I love the kids at my building because man, they're just so hilarious, and they're so wise, but they don't know it yet. You know what I mean? There's so much promise and potential there. Um, so it just inspires me, even as they're eating, you know, hot talkie fries at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Like there's something. Embrace that rebelliousness to say, like, you know what, nutrition, no way.
I'll get you later.
I'll get you later. That's right. You know, I think that's pretty cool, you know?
That's awesome, man. And I think I got the title of this podcast episode, though. We're all kind of dumb. I think that's, but you say that as you're spouting King Lear and Walt Whitman and Emily Dixon. I mean, talking about Takis, it's that message though. It's powerful. We are all kind of dumb, but we're all kind of unique. We all have to just celebrate our own uniqueness. And it's just, it's good. That's good. And that's
there's so much in life to embrace. You know, there's so much out there that like kids are sometimes viewed as, especially middle school kids, sometimes people look at them as like from a deficit mentality, that they're all messed up, they don't know anything yet. But man, like there's such richness in a middle school in all of its wackiness.
So
and
true.
I just think like, you got to embrace that.
So true.
Sorry, I don't mean to prattle on. Sorry, man.
No, it's good. I mean, I just let you go. Just act like you're driving your car. Just talk, man. Just tell us what's on your mind. No, it is so good. And I feel like we truly could just sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. And I think what I want to do is I want to have you on again in a few months once, you know, let some people listen to this and then get some of their responses and see where the conversation kind of goes, because you've got so much just practical truth that is so important and so powerful. And I want people to be able to hear this at regular intervals. So if it's all right with you, man, I want to get you back on here real soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime. And, you know, not to just reciprocate for reciprocal sake, but like, I appreciate everything that you do. I mean, you ask really good questions and you give really thoughtful responses. And I think that's a gift. That is a true gift. And that's you know,
I'm
I appreciate
I'm
that,
just
man.
dumb, man. I ask questions because I don't know.
Yeah.
You said it. So, but on that note, you know, I told you ahead of time that I give everybody the opportunity, once they've spouted a lot of truth and a lot of wisdom,
Oh gosh.
to leave people with something. To we call it that mic drop moment, but you've dropped the mic a ton just in
Oh
the last
gosh.
half hour, 40 minutes. But I like to give people that opportunities that when they're turning off the podcast, they've listened to the whole thing, to have something that they can just hold on to. And some people are going to hold on to the idea that we're all dumb. Some are going to be thinking about Whitman versus Dickinson. Some are going to just be thinking about you and relationships and connections and the idea of preserving quiet. I mean, there's a lot that you left us with, and a lot that I'm still processing through. You know, I told you I'm sitting here taking notes on my phone, and sometimes I take notes to think about the questions I'm going to ask. But right now, I'm just taking questions. I'm writing down a ton of stuff that I'm going to resonate on. I'm going to fixate on over the next few days because it's so good. It's so much
man,
truth.
You're too kind, man. You're too kind.
With that being said,
Yeah.
is there something that you want to leave us with? Something, I mean, we got potentially 7 billion people that are listening to this right now. 7 billion people that are going to share it and replay it and just keep listening and keep listening.
There you go.
This is your opportunity, man. What do you want us all to take away?
You know what? It's kind of like the great philosopher Ian MacKaye from Minor Threat said. He said, "I'm out of step with the world." Out of step with the world. And it's okay to be out of step with the world. You know, back in 7th grade, I just moved to Virginia Beach, and I was totally out of step with the world, totally socially awkward, didn't fit in with anybody. And I had I was literally in the margins of the paper. I was like living my life in the margins, marginalized. And I had a teacher who reached out and, you know, really made a connection with me and didn't try to force me to assimilate to anybody's different way of, you know, living, but instead kind of met me in the margins and taught me that it's okay to be out of step with the world. And that's cool, you know? And so that's, I think, like how I try to live my life is just say, like, you know, everyone's got their own thing they're working on. Everyone's got their odyssey that they're trying to figure out. So being out of step, man, that's okay. It's good. Embrace that. Find those kids that are out of step and let them be that way, and just try to be there for them. I don't know.
That's good, man. Quit trying to make people normal. Quit trying to make people ordinary and just celebrate that extraordinary. That's good. That's good, man.
Well, I mean, the only thing that makes us perfect is our own imperfections. That's what makes us perfect. So go ahead and embrace that.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And when I hit stop, I'm going to tell you a story about Virginia Beach. That connection right now. But I want people to focus on what you just said. Let that be let that be the thing that they leave on. It's okay to be out of step with the world, man. Just keep going. Embrace those kids that might not color inside the lines. Embrace those kids that might just want to step aside and be quiet, do things their own way, whether it's the music they're listening to, the way they're dressed, and just let people be people and just cheer them on as they go. That's good.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right.
That's good.
Man, I appreciate it.
Well, Dru, thanks for being on here. You know, I'll have in the show notes here ways that people can connect with you, ways that people can follow your journey and see what you're up to and chart along this world with you, man. So again, just appreciate you being here, and God bless you.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to any kind of future dialogue in the future.
You got it.